Hey everybody, Stew Smith here going live. Hope you guys are well today. We are talking about some CSS critiques here in a few minutes, but as you guys congregate, I'm going to share with you what we are doing. We are halfway through our spring training cycle. We actually started 2 weeks early, sh- shortened our strength cycle just a little bit, but our spring is a mix of weights and calisthenics. I call it a 50-50 split. And what it is we still warm up with calisthenics. We um, mix in weights into our training cycle. So, for instance, today, one of the things I wanted to see is how everybody's body weight bench press looked, max reps. So, trying to get everybody in the double digit range. Just over the years, I have seen that to be a useful range of ability for pushing. But we have a secondary goal of working on some muscle stamina for push ups. And the way we combine those together is we do a max rep set of bench. First, we warm up with pull up, push ups, jogging, get the blood flowing a little bit, do a few warm up benches, get up to your body weight, then crank out 3 working sets of that body weight bench, followed by as soon as you get off the bench, you drop down and do as many push ups as you can. And usually, if you do it right, you might get 10. Most people are single digits because my goal is to try to simulate those last 20 seconds of a 2-minute push up test with that little combination. And then after that, before you get back on the bench, take a couple of minutes, jog a little bit, shake it out, do some abs, do whatever active rest you want to do, spot your buddy, those are fine too. And then you repeat that a couple of more times. And my goal is to get everybody double digits. I would say a gold standard would be 20 plus at your body weight if you can. Um, and then after we do that, we do weight vest pull ups, weight vest dips in a circuit, followed by some overhead pressing holds. So as you can see, it's not just calisthenics. We are still blending in weighted resistance training into our conditioning routine with the goal of building muscle stamina, maintaining some strength. And then for for a recovery cycle before we do the next circuit, we'll run a mile, come back, hit those weights. So it works really well. Everybody leaves there with a solid pump. They're not exhausted. Um, it's just one of those good workouts. And then later on in the day, we go swimming, do a big swimming conditioning workout with 50-50s or 100-100s, and it's just a good typical upper body spring day. And you can't beat it. We're outside working out. It's warm. You know, sun's out, guns out, and it's just good time. So one of my favorite times of the year, actually. Though I do like the winter lift cycle. The only thing that sucks about the winter lift cycle is sometimes it gets really cold out there. Um, let's see here. Looks like I have some questions over here. Let me try to pull up some questions. You guys over here on YouTube already started asking questions. I appreciate it. Somebody real quickly, any tips for the 50-meter underwater buds building up to it? Yeah, just get really efficient at swimming underwater, meaning try to get from one end of the pool to the other in as few sets as possible. Meaning you're not swimming 50 meters underwater, you're gliding as much of that as you can. So we try to get everybody down to like 4 strokes across the pool. Um, Gliding, so 4 arm pulls, 4 kicks, and recovers. Um, so that's a stroke to get across the pool. And I promise you, if you do that, you'll start working on your efficiency. And you really, holding your breath for 50, 60 seconds isn't that hard. Um, where it gets hard is if you're just stroking the whole time and you get like 8, 10, 12 strokes to get across the pool and you wonder why you're tired is because you just overworked it. So the tip is be efficient when you swim it. And if you go to YouTube and my Instagram, you'll see guys swimming underwater and how we teach it. So check those out. Let's see. Hey, Stu, I have a question on your phase 4 Hell Week prep. Should I take a walk week after completing the simulated? You know what? That's a good question because I would recommend it. I would recommend instead of a walk week, you can run a little bit. It's not going to be that tough, but mostly non-impact cardio. Mix in a couple mobility days. Highly recommend. We did that one last spring, and we had an easier week the following week, so wasn't horrible. We did a couple of mobility days to start it off, and then we kind of gradually went back into the workout week. And by the end of the week, we were back to normal workouts. So I would say the first half of the week we were easy, second half of the week building up to normal. Good question though. If you go a lot outside your mileage, you probably want to lick your wounds a little bit just in case you feel any overuse stuff starting to get up. Greetings from Scotland. You need to do the new Never Quit book as an audiobook. Well, Max, my friend, it is up on Amazon as an audiobook. Now, sad part, it's not me reading it. It is their system that actually reads it for you. I picked a guy who was masculine voice from American South. So it's as close to me as it's going to be. But it's basically their AI tool reads it for you, and it sounds pretty good. I'm impressed. But you can find it on Amazon as an audiobook. I have PST today at 10 a.m. and it's 8:20 where I'm at. How should I warm up right before the PST? Well, you're going to be in the pool in the PST. My advice is get in the pool a little bit early, swim a couple laps, stretch out. Make sure you're carbon up right now. Not too full, but you got some energy. You're not going in fasted. That's really important. You're going to burn a lot of blood sugar in that workout and glycogen. So sip something with sugar in it as well. Not lay off the caffeine. Last thing you need is a whole bunch of pre-workout or coffee. Get your heart rate elevated. Just lay off of it. Don't do it. And just get ready to go crush it. If you haven't seen the PST clinic article, I'd highly recommend reading it. It is how I teach strategizing your way through that fitness test. In fact, you can see it right here. I'm putting the link here on the YouTube. I'll put the link over here on Instagram, and you might not be able to click it over here on Instagram, but you can see if you type in Navy SEAL PST Clinic, put my name in it, it'll pop up. That's what I would recommend. But yeah, just swim, stretch it out, swim a couple 100 yards or maybe 100 yards, stretch, get ready. And then in between each event, you have a little bit of time to stretch before the next event, get ready for the next event. That's what you do. If you read that article, it will explain it in detail. How does Bud's prep look like, more or less? You're just going to do some workouts. It's not that hard. You're gonna work out for a living, and it's not overly exerting. In fact, some people work out extra at the end of it. Um, so you're going to do a run, you're going to do a swim, you're going to do some PT, might do the O course. I think later in you might get a little introduction to logs and boats just to learn how to do it, but it's nothing challenging. But believe it or not, people quit during prep. They realized that they were in over their head and their spec ops dreams are done before they even start. because they didn't prepare right. Thank you. My goal is 845, 100, 22, and 845. Nice. That's a great goal. Love it. Sub 9. That's awesome. All right. What swim strokes do you absolutely recommend for Air Force guys going PJ on the past? What swim strokes can we use during the pipeline? In other words, should our CSS be as good as our freestyle or just as good as our lead arm, trail arm, and breaststroke? Or can one stroke do it all? Speak for the pipeline. You can get away with just freestyle and lead arm, trail arm. However, I personally, all our Air Force pipeline guys, we also learned the CSS. And over the course of training, they will develop one or the other better. So my advice to them is whichever one you're best at doing, do it. Freestyle or CSS, for that pass test. Now, with fins, we also teach both ways. During the selection, you're going to be going through using lead arm, trail arm, and some of the training there, you're going to be using lead arm, trail arm. However, when you get to dive school, you can use the CSS, as I recall. There's a time when you can use it. Whether or not you want to use it, that's up to you. Eventually, you get so good at lead arm, trail arm, it's nearly as good as your CSS. I find CSS with fins a little faster than lead arm, trail arm, but I'm better at CSS than I am lead arm, trail arm, if that makes sense. We got guys swimming side by side. In fact, I may have a video of it. We have guys swimming side by side that are, one's doing the CSS, one's doing the lead arm, trail arm. They're swimming a yard per second, which if you do the math on that, that's 8,2,500. That's 16,40,000. And if you can do that, you're good to go. If you can handle that for 4,000 and get somewhere in that 66, 67 minute zone, perfect. Perfect time. Okay, how many times a week would you consider exceptional for a master's swim? Especially if you did water polo once or twice a week. New to water polo, obviously, but figure it can help with the PJ pipeline. Yeah, all that's going to be great, especially if you learn the egg beater. I will tell you this. You're going to get a great swimming shape from any master's swim program. Now, they're going to be teaching you freestyle and not the CSS. Maybe you can do some cool downs with the CSS or something. But yeah, man, if you're doing that 5-6 days a week, you're solid. Combining water polo, with your swimming each week. Okay, man, Joe, tearing it up. How complimentary would you say a full-time federal tactical career, Homeland, BORTAC, is with career and National Guard, especially for late 20s, early 30s? It can be done. It's not an impossible task. We have countless guys I know that are on, SWAT teams, police department SWAT teams, and our National Guard special forces. I probably know a couple dozen like that. But I would suggest it would be about the same for PJ. Also, I guess I meant if our CSS is very, very fast, would it be recommended using it for the PJ physical test? Yeah, sure. If it's very fast, do it. All right. You got the audio book. It's a masterpiece. Oh, thank you. Yeah, maybe one day I'll make one that it's me reading it and maybe throw in some bonus clips or something like that. Yeah, I'm glad you like it because, let me say, this never quit mindset project is pretty much me looking back in the last 40 years of my life or 40 years of my life. As a kid wanting to do something and setting goals, and as a young adult reaching those goals, hitting failure multiple times, getting through that, and then getting into spec ops where there's successes and failures as well. How do you get over those? And then as a coach, trying to instill some of these, physiological and psychological um, benefits of understanding what physical mental toughness is and the never quit mindset, and trying to verbalize that has been a big challenge for me. And while this book flowed out of my mind onto paper in probably 2 months, I got it knocked out. Um, it made sense to me. So I'm not sure. I'm very curious how it is making sense to others. Um, so I appreciate your feedback on that. Let's see. Good morning. Let's see. ABH3 chopping station. Discussed before me wanting to cross rate into SO. How would I schedule a PST when the time comes when I can put it in a package? Well, every recruiting district is going to be where you live. So you're going to have a recruiting district for the Navy somewhere. So my advice is this: go to a recruiter's office, talk to who's running the Navy scout team, and there'll be a mentor or a scout team guy who gives the PST, right? You can either do it that way or find somebody to administer the PST if you live near a SEAL team, or if you're in Little Creek, you can go over to the fleet transition program over there at the base pool at Little Creek. There's a whole bunch of SEALs over there that runs a TAD program to get fleet guys ready for buds. You have to be there on no cost orders. And so I don't know if there's one on the West Coast. I know there's one in Little Creek. But yeah, that's what you do. Find a PST, find somebody to administer that PST, and then submit your package. Quick question: would dumbbells and calisthenics be suitable for strength training for conventional military career, doing cardio alongside strength training as well? Yeah. In fact, we did it today. It was awesome. If you don't have barbells, use dumbbells, kettlebells, sandbags, weight vests. All of those are going to help with, when you think about muscle stamina, it is a combination of strength and endurance. And the more weight you add, the more strength focused it is. The more reps you add, the more endurance focused it is. So you can play around on that spectrum, focusing on one or the other. And, if you go too heavy, that's okay. If you only get 3 reps, that's more of the strength side, right? If you're able to get 15 reps, that's more of the stamina side. So that's how we play around with that level of conditioning. Receiving feedback that instead of quitting in Hell Week, most are getting run out and told to quit. Is this more common now? You know what? It's a sad state, but sometimes that's the way it goes. But my advice is this to everybody: say F you. I'm not quitting. You're going to have to run me out, or I'm going to have to fail something. I'm not quitting, right? And sometimes that's all they want to hear you say, right? You get up under that boat and you start crushing it again. Get pissed off at everybody and use that as fuel. But don't show weakness, right? It's sad state. Used to be when, in the boat, as long as you were putting out, everybody putting out together, you were a team and it was you against them. It wasn't you guys against each other. You know, so what if you lose a boat race? Big deal. You know, the instructors will see the weak link in those boats and they will deal with it. It's not your job as a bud student to run people out of buds. And that has happened in the past. I'm hoping it happens less now, but it's not necessarily the case. Joe, also thank you, Stu, for all you do. Seriously, you're the best. Thank you. I appreciate it. What you do for all of us cannot be overstated. Well, I appreciate it. I enjoy doing this, so I hope it helps people. Um, Audio book not available in UK. I'll try Amazon.com. Yeah, I put it on all the stores. I just did it yesterday, so it may, or I think I did it on Sunday. So it just came through either yesterday or today. So maybe it's not up yet. Thoughts on GHD sit-ups? I mean, there's something you can do. I don't necessarily do them, but you can if you want to. Um, I mean, it definitely gets a bigger range of motion for sure. That's a good question. I don't really have any thoughts on them. I just don't do them. I like to go on my belly on the glute ham developer and work the backside of my core, but I typically don't flip over and do sit ups like that. Am I missing out on something? Good question. I don't know. What are the recommendations for pull up progression? I'm struggling with getting more than 10 or 11 cold. Good question. I would say um, one, don't do daily pull-ups, right? When you're at this level, you know, once you're starting to get in that double digits, your volume needs to increase, but your recovery needs to increase. So a day in between pull-ups is the minimum. If you can go 2 days in between pull-ups on some days, that may be very beneficial, especially if you go a high volume workout. So between 10 and 11, if you want to go higher, here's my advice. In fact, I have a workout for you, and it's a free of week of cows PT test, Stew Smith. Let me see if it can come up. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, it's a whole week. Crush the PT test. I think it's Crush the PT test week. All right, 1 month challenge. Here it is. You do the same week 4 times. Okay. And it's my magic system that I like to do. You're going to do 3 upper body days a week. One's a pyramid. 2 days later, you're going to do a superset, submax rep. So, like 10 sets of 6, right? So, somewhere between 50 and 60 reps, you're going to get on pull ups. And then on Saturday, 2 days later, so that's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're doing leg days or cardio, things like that. You're not taking the days off. You can see it in this article. In fact, I'm putting it right here for you, and you can do this 4 times and let me know what happens. The last one you do is called the max rep set workout, and this is where I found if you're stuck in the low teens, this is perfect one for you to get over 20. And usually it takes like 4 to 5 weeks to do it. It's pretty challenging. Um, but the way it works is you're going to set up like 50 to 70 pull-ups is your total you're going to do that day. But you get it in as few sets as possible, meaning you do a little warm up and then you're just hitting it, you're redlining, taking your pull-ups to a max, you do some other exercises for an active rest, go for a run for a quarter mile, do some push-ups, sit-ups, things like that, come back to that pull-up max reps again. And let's say you get 10, you might get 8, you might get 7, might get a little bit less each time. That's okay. Um, if you want to try to extend each set, something I like to do is crank out as many as I can one way, check out my hands for like 20 seconds, and then see if you can get a few reverse grip to add to those numbers. Count that as part of that set. And then once you reach that number, you're done with pull ups. So in this workout, it's set at 100, but that may be a little too much. If you have to go past 10 sets, then don't do this workout to 100. Maybe cut it down to 60 to 80, somewhere around that, and try to keep it at like 6 to 8 sets versus going over 10. Just because it's hard to recover from, and that's a Saturday, and you're going to be doing another upper body day on Monday, or you can bump it to Tuesday if you're too sore. But you'll see. Read that article. It's a really good one, and if you follow that program for a month, you'll kill it. It's my favorite week of training, I will say, especially for people who are stuck or trying to crush a PT test and are almost there. What team was I on? I was an SDV guy, so SDV Team 2 in Little Creek. Definitely would love to see an audiobook with you reading it and hearing your cliff notes. I'll try to do that. Probably won't happen this month, but I might get it next month, and instead of selling it on Amazon, I'll have it up on my my store, and eventually, maybe offer it free as part of the membership program. I don't know. We'll play around with it. I'm going to have a course of it soon where I'm actually breaking down each chapter, and the book is kind of like the textbook, if you would. I was penning TRT. Not sure what that means, but I've read where it won't be available in OSUT or SFAS, so I cycled off. Training naturally. Damn, dude. Clearly lost strength trying to build it back up. Yeah, stay off that stuff. If you're a young kid, young guy, you don't need that shit. Yeah, can't use it anyway. Unless you have like low T naturally, then don't do it. I'm an old guy, and could use it if I needed it, but still don't. What you say your upbringing with your family helped you build that no quit mindset for buds? Would I say that? Seems like from an early age you were always training, so it seemed like you were always motivated to. You know what? I was. But my family doesn't exercise. My dad does not exercise. My mom did not. I mean, they walked around the block. About it. But one of my first gifts I remember, well, as a young teenager, I think I was 12 years old. So my 12-year-old Christmas, that means I turned 13 in January of the following year. I got a weight set, and it was like a 110-pound bench, bench with 110 pounds of concrete weights. And that was my starting thing. I remember that was probably one of my favorite Christmas presents ever. And I never stopped. It had nothing to do with my parents, nothing to do with my upbringing, other than they were very supportive. And I would say it probably had more to do with older kids in my neighborhood. When I was 12, they were 15 and 16, and they were lifting weights, and they had younger siblings, and we'd go over there and play around. And so it was just, I was really lucky to have, I guess, good influences around me in the neighborhood. And when you're playing sports with kids that are 4 years older than you, you just get tougher because they knock the crap out of you, and you're just scared to go up against them, but you do it anyway. But I was really lucky. I had both parents I didn't need anything. If I wanted something, they made me work for it. So yes, I would say upbringing definitely helped me. In fact, that's part of my first chapter in the book about upbringing of the never quit mindset. What would be a good 6 days a week running program to build endurance? Go to the article I wrote, because it's not just endurance; there's speed too. Um, I mean, if you go Google that question, you'll find hundreds of options. I have one that running program to help you get to and through selection. Now, it's a 20-mile a week running program. So if you're not up there at that, don't just jump in and do 20 miles a week. Build up to it. Um, are you instilling that mindset in your own kids? And how does someone build that to be a good father as well as in the future? Good question. Yes, I am. My son, who's been working out with me since he was a young teenager, is a freaking beast. Um, yeah, he got all my wife's height. My wife's like 5'10", and all her family's over 6'4". So he's a 6'4", 200-pound dude. About to graduate college, go into. I think he wants to go into law enforcement. Um, got some lineups for some jobs in that world. Um, my daughter, she's 15-year dancer, ballerina. That's tough on your feet. And she also has a master's degree in mechanical engineering. So, yeah, very proud of them. Um, they they've kind of got that never quit mindset as well, I think. But I did make them. I sent the book to them, made them read it. Um, been hitting PBS in running, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups without trying that much. PBs. Okay, personal best. Nice work. Best way to increase push-ups. I just mentioned it. I've just shared a couple of links in these comment sections there, Logan. Um, it's in the links that I've shared, so I'm not going to answer that one again. No offense, just answered it. Any recommendations for working out in boot camp prior to selection? Yeah, you got to squeeze it in whenever you can. That's just the way it works. Um, and you'll see it. There'll be guys working out, doing push-ups and flutter kicks and squats and lunges and burpees, you know, before you go to bed or wake up early and do it. They're supposed to be having some swim workouts for you guys now, um, as well. Logan, it's up here. Um, let's see. You got to scroll through it. Maybe you can't scroll back that far. But anyway, it is the article is called um, the article is called 1 month PST challenge, kill the PST in 4 weeks. So check that out. 1 month PST challenge. If you can't find it on Instagram, I'm going live right now on YouTube as well, so you can find it over there. So Google that stuff, man. Put my name in it and you'll find it. All right. Let me share some videos I got because we're running out of time. Don't want to waste all of yours. Let's see. Where's my Instagram page? 24th. All right. This one should be that volume. Damn. That blew me up. All right. So you guys can see this. Let's see what we got here. A little blurry. Hopefully it clears up a little bit. All right. So we're kicking off the wall. Double arm pull. Good kickoff. I like that. Good kick off the wall. That's the way you do it. Good streamline. Looks like you're doing a little bit of dolphin kicking in there. That's all right. Didn't look like it was too crazy. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pull. Yeah, I like it. I think the only thing I see here is a slight over rotation on that bottom, on your breath. Like, you don't need to look up at the ceiling to turn to breathe. And I think it's because of a really big bottom arm pull. Take a look. Yeah, that's not that big. Top arm, bottom arm, kick. I like it. It's up to you if you want to keep that dolphin kick in there. This is really good. I really don't have a whole lot to fix on this one. I mean, it's a 48-second 50, so that's really good. I mean, if you put it this way, if you can get in shape to maintain that 9 more laps, you got yourself 8-minute swim. So that's excellent. All right, so we got some fins. Somebody was asking earlier about swimming with fins. Let's show it. All right, let's make this a little bigger. All right, so this is a CSS with fins. As you can see, it's just something I like to do. Oh, by the way, when you're in a pool, and sometimes you'll be swimming these in a pool, notice he kicks off, dolphin kick, dolphin kick, dolphin kick, one breath. Okay, comes up to breathe. Recommend doing that. It's a really easy way to get some momentum going off that wall. So once again, kick off the wall, dolphin kick, dolphin kick, dolphin kick, because it just feels awkward kicking off the wall with these big rocket fins on. So if you flat foot kick and then do some dolphin kicks, you'll get some momentum going. But yeah, this is really good. I mean, he's hitting it like a 15-minute 1,000 with this pace, which, I mean, you just can't beat that. That's really good. I mean, you can beat it, but it's if you can do a 30-minute 2,000 and a 60-minute 4,000, you're top 10% of your buds class in swimming. So believe it or not, even though this doesn't look fast, it's solid. I think it's a minute 30 100 he does. So if you extrapolate that out, that's a 7:30 500 and a 15-minute 1,000. And I think I just caught him on like halfway through his 1,000 in 15 minutes on this one. So as you can see, he's just doing medium-sized flutter kicks, and he only pulls his arms when he needs to breathe. So kick, 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 pull and breathe. Kick, 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 pull and breathe. That's how you do it. That's a good CSS with fins. All right, now I think I have a lead arm trip as well. All right, let me share this one. I'm going to do one more video here, and then we'll go back to questions. As you can see, the lead arm trail arm is really just a lot of flutter kicks. Your bottom arms over your head, your top arms on your side, and you just rotate to breathe. So let's see how he kicks off the wall here. So he kicks off the wall, dolphin, dolphin, and just no more pulling. That's the beauty of the lead arm trail arm is it's all legs. So you have to get your legs and hips in shape to be able to do this. I personally am working on this one to get his kicks a little bit bigger. You can see how he bends his knee a little bit on that top leg. You can bend it slightly, but you don't want it to look like you're riding a bicycle. So you want a little bit, there you go, that's better. A little bit bigger stride when he does this kick. Like, see how they start getting a little smaller? I like those kicks to be at least, like 18 inches apart. That makes for a good medium-sized flutter kick. Too small, and you're not really using the fin that much for what it's built for. Too big, and then you're just slowing yourself down. So, a good 18-inch kick works really well for whether you're doing the CSS or the lead arm trail arm. All right, I hope that helped. Let me see if I have any more. I think I don't. but I can pull up some if anybody wants to see others. If I go through these questions, maybe we'll get to more videos. Or you can send them to me. You can DM me over on Instagram. I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. Let's see. What's your opinion on training sick? Is this part of being mentally tough or just being stupid? Great question. I don't recommend it if it's below here. All right. So if you got a head cold, sinuses, runny nose, scratchy throat type of stuff, clogged ears, that's not going to really prevent you from working out. It might be a pain in the ass, but not going to prevent you from working out. Once it starts getting into the lungs and you're hacking up a lung every time you get your heart rate up, that's a good indicator to pull back and keep your heart rate down. Another one is if you have a fever, a rash, anything like that, just stay away from people because you're probably going to be contagious and you're going to feel like crap. So you got to think of it two ways. One, is it affecting your heart rate and breathing? Then the answer is pull back or rest. If you're going to get other people contagious or you're going to get other people sick because you're contagious, pull back. If it's from here and you're just feeling like you got a clogged head, don't sweat it. Go nuts. In fact, I've written an article on that one too. So you can Google that question with my name in it and you'll find an article. Current Napster. I will honestly tell you this, Noah. I wish I'd have gone to NAPS. I needed Naval Academy prep school before going. So good job on that. I wish I'd have gone in hindsight. Is it bad to bulk up in the summer while still staying in running shape and treat plebe summer as a cutting period? Yeah, you're going to lose weight plebe summer. That's just the way it works. You're just up all day, moving, physical activity. You're eating, but it's probably until you start getting food mailed to you, which I highly recommend having people send it to you, or I don't know, send it to yourself before you show up, and get some good food in there. You might need a little extra snacks. I don't think you can do supplements though, so don't send yourself that stuff. But yeah, I mean that's not a bad way to do it. My advice is just getting good calisthenics cardio shape before you go, because that's all you're going to be doing during plebe summer. Working on Mobility Day book yet? I actually have a mobility work. It's called Tactical Mobility. I wrote it with someone else, and quite honestly, I put some sections in there, and it's half theirs, or maybe more than half theirs. So I don't really have a pure Mobility Day book yet, but every one of my workouts since 2015 have mobility days in it. And I explain what those mobility days are. So whether you are going into this one and doing some tactical fitness periodization, or you're going to Buds or SF or PJ, there's mobility days in there. Let's see. Being a SEAL, did you see a lot of death and did it mess you up mentally? That's something I'm afraid for. Yes, but not in the way you would probably think. Like, I didn't go to a war zone and see death and destruction everywhere. But I will say, by the time I was 30, most people my age have been to more weddings than funerals. I had been to more funerals than weddings. So, does that mess you up a little bit? Yeah, it sucks when you bury friends, and classmates. So, you do deal with death in some ways, regardless of war or not. Any tips on breath holds? You know what? I'm not the breath hold guy. Um, I'm sure you can find some information out there on breath holds, but you know, I think I've probably longest I ever held my breath at buds was like a minute, minute and a half, even during pool comp or not tying. But you just got to be able to do, 30, 45 seconds, come up for a few breaths, do 30, 45 seconds again, right? So I'm not that guy to ask, to be honest with you. So any specific booties for rocket fins? Yeah, I mean, just go to Amazon or you can go to a tack lead if you want. Type in scuba booties. I'm going to show you the ones I have here real quick. If you just go to Google and type in scuba booties, here's what you're going to find. You're going to find a whole bunch of things like dive socks, like these. These don't have much footing on them. I prefer the ones with a little bit of sole in them. Like if you see this here, and they're not that expensive. I don't know why it's taking so long to load, but it is. Hmm. Here we go. As you can see here, oh, I guess you can't see that. Damn it. Let me share the screen. I see what happened. I got to share you the bigger picture of it. Here we go. All right. So check this out. So these are Neo 6s. As a brand, I happen to have 6 millimeter. Got a little rubberized gripping sole here. Highly recommend that. Um, and that's all you need. Little heel protection back there. That strap for the rocket fins are going to dig in there, so you want a little extra something back there. So that's what I get. You can see they're only $30. So if that helps, I hope it does. Also, is it okay if during my slice phase I am breaking surface toward the end? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Glide phase, maybe? You don't want to break the surface ever, because as soon as you start breaking the surface, you're plowing and that surface tension is slowing you down. So if you want to stay fast, stay submerged. I'm assuming you meant glide phase. Just guessing, but all right. Other questions? How to know the difference between running injuries and soreness? Good question. Dealing with nerve, ankle pain on and off, and want your thoughts. Be honest with you, that's a tough one. I mean, I can kind of tell now. I mean, I've been working out for 43 years, and I can tell when I'm sore and when I'm injured. Typically, and this is statistically speaking, injuries occur on one side, soreness occurs on both sides. So if you have calf pain in both calves, that is likely soreness, not an injury. And like I said, this is statistically speaking. I'm sure it's been proven wrong when people hurt both legs at the same time. But usually injuries occur on one side, soreness occurs on both. That's my simplest way of answering that, because it all depends on what we're talking about: muscles, joints, tendons, ligaments. If nerves get in there, it sucks. I mean, nerve pain is probably the worst out of it all. Um, so once we start dealing with that, I start telling people you're above my pay grade and you need to go talk to a physical therapist, doctor. If you're into chiropractors, go see a chiropractor. Doctors are chiropractic medicine, or I know some solid ones. So people always talk about the biggest struggles in buds, and while in training to be a SEAL, what's something that you thought was going to be tough but ended up being easier than expected? Well, I think when you first let's say you're a week from showing up and you're at this point in your training where you can't get faster, you can't get stronger, and now you're being put to the test. All you can really do at that moment is realize if I'm not fast enough or strong enough, I have to get tougher, right? To meet the standard, to grit through the wet and sandy and cold. You're going to be tested in that. Your strength's going to be tested, your durability is going to be tested, your endurance is going to be tested, and your muscle stamina is going to be tested, and your toughness is going to be tested. And have you done enough? That's a constant thing. In fact, there's a chapter in the book, doubting yourself, and have you done enough? What is probably the number one question is, have I done enough to get ready? Am I ready for buds? And be honest with you, you really don't know until you're there. And that's a horrible answer to give. But, if you can honestly assess yourself and say, all right, according to this list of all the things that I'm about to do, did I prepare for them? Did I tread? Did I do pool skills? Did I swim with fins? Did I ruck? Did I lift weights to be a little more durable under a boat and a log? Right? Did I do all of my PST? You probably did. Most people do, and that's all they do. That's where they fall short. Um, and are you smart enough to learn new skills quickly? Because that is one of those things that you're going to be doing. A lot of people get rolled for scuba diving, or they get rolled for land navigation or shooting even. So there's some tactical training that comes at you pretty quickly, and you got to learn it and be able to repeat it, at a certain level. It's a basic level, but you still got to know it. But I would say what I thought was going to be tough, it was tough. I mean, there was nothing that I thought was easy, but I remember some days, I thought the day was going to be like nonstop physical activity. And when I realized that there are times when, we take bathroom breaks and we go eat meals and no one's messing with us and we got a whole hour to eat and we got to go be somewhere else. You got like 15 minutes to kind of chill out a little bit before you go do this next event. So you're kind of collecting yourself and fueling up for that next event. And that, I think, made the whole thought of buds easier, right? Because in my head, it was just we didn't stop training all day, right? I mean, those are the types of things that you think that you're about to go to, and then all of a sudden, you've worked out 3 times in a day, but there's probably 6 hours in that day where you were on your feet, moving around, doing stuff, but you weren't training to a point where you're dying. Does that make sense? So that's where I thought the day was easier, because there were some days when the day ended 5, 6 o'clock at night, you just ate dinner and you're thinking like, wait a second. Because before I was at Buds, I was working out, I was going to school, I was playing a sport, and then I was working out again after that, and then I was studying all night, to midnight, getting ready for the final exams or tests or whatever. And I remember the day was done, and I'm like, wait a second. I don't have to study. I don't have to go work out. All I really need to do is get my uniform and gear ready for tomorrow. You kidding me? I can sit there and watch TV and do this. This is awesome. So that's where I thought it was. It was a nice, refreshing moment when I realized that's what it was. Sorry for the long answer. Wait, I missed the booties. What did you recommend? Let's see. It's the Neo 6. If you want, you can go back to this video. I'll post it back on Instagram, but it's always on YouTube. And I've written articles about fins and booties, and fins and booties I recommend for spec ops selection, dive school, buds, and all that, and it's there. Even has a link to the store. You want to go straight to Amazon or whatever store I link to. I've heard others say 20 or so miles is too little for selection prep. What are your thoughts? Yes, I think 20 miles is too not enough. Um, I think you need to be 30 plus, and depending on the person, it's not, you don't need to be at a certain level. A lot of people say 50 miles everybody. I don't recommend that either, but I also don't recommend 20 or under. So I'm somewhere in the middle between 30 and 40. And that's usually sufficient. Now, if you're on the low end, you want to make sure you can handle those 4 mile timed runs well. Like I've seen people go 50 and 60, and most of it's all LSD stuff, and they can't meet an 8-minute mile for a 4 mile timed run. They just got really good at running 9-10 minute miles for hours. That's great for an aerobic base, but you got to start picking up your speed. So the fewer miles you go, you need to work on some speed too. I mean, everybody needs a little aerobic base training, but you don't need to get too good at running slow. You got to pick up some speed eventually. Um, is there a way for people to attempt to become a SEAL but has backup jobs they can get? Um, I'm not sure. I mean, put it this way: I know many people go to buds, don't make it, and they become EOD guys, or they become SWIC guys, or I've seen guys become pilots after not going to buds. So you can have backup jobs. Whether or not those are um, guaranteed to you is another thing. It largely depends on the needs of the Navy. Let's see. All right. So Joseph says the mental toll of my military career, 23 years, was significant, but resources are more available than when I started. Yes, absolutely. Things have changed tremendously in post service mental health and even active duty mental health. It's not the stigma that it used to be, like if you were getting treatment for PTS or any other mental issue. All right, and that's a good thing. All right, guys, it's been about an hour. I appreciate you guys sticking around as much as you did. I think I got all those questions answered. Um, don't forget to check out stewsmithfitness.com if you're looking for programming, articles to read, whatever. I got a great search section in there, over 1,000 articles. You can also do it on Google, it'll pop up. But use the live15 coupon code, save 15%. And of course, if I missed your question, I think I got everybody's, but if I missed it and you come up with another one, just email me, stu@stewsmith.com. You want me to watch you swim, send me that 50-meter video of you swimming. You can DM me or email me as well. All right, folks. Until next week, you guys have a good one.